Hi, and welcome to Ruben. What are we calling this?
A pandemic project mastermind, right?
Yes, the Pandemic Project Mastermind.
Love it.
Ruben and I are super stoked to have you all here. And today is basically like the pregame show where we sort of talk about what the group is, which is not necessarily just explaining. It's also getting feedback from all of you about what you'd like it to be, and then setting up just some group norms about like what we want, how we want the group to operate and what we want it to be like, and some introductions. And then Ruben's going to take us through a really cool brainstorming exercise that we can do. And then we're going to kind of share what we come up with today, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the plan. So basically the Pandemic Project Mastermind is the brainchild of Ruben and me sitting around and talking about like how weird and stressful and tough lockdown has been over the last year, and how we both sort of had expectations when we first got locked down that we were going to accomplish something. We were going to get traction and really change something about our lives, and realizing that, now that we're getting close to whatever normal is going to be, that the time has really come to make something happen. And not that things haven't been happening before this, but it's just a nice finite amount of time. And one thing that most people who identify as neuroatypical love is a good deadline to help get things going. So that's what that was sort of the idea behind it. And we're both really interested in kind of meta stuff, like how do you make a project and how do you decide how to shape it and how to give it meaning and heart and how to connect it to the rest of your life, whatever. So we're going to be talking about some of that stuff too. And I think that's all I've got by way of introduction. What's next on the agenda, Ruben? We were all going to introduce ourselves, right?
Yeah. I'm Ruben. Right now my focus is designing a game, but also my greater focus is just trying to figure out how it is that some projects get done, some projects fail, and how to put enough attention on the things that I want to get done so that they actually get done. Kind of the heart of executive function and productivity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool.
I hear you on that.
You want to go next, Mark?
Oh gosh, I never know what to say. Mark Buchanan, hi. I'm kind of a computer artist dude, music a bit also, and I am making an app that's basically kind of combines 3D video game technology and your music collection, kind of the intersection of those two things. And yeah. And I definitely understand and sort of resonate with the concept of, what is it about projects that actually do get done and completed, and the ones that slip through the cracks. I think for a neuroatypical creative person, that's just a constant. That's a constant challenge. At least it is for me.
Thank you. Yeah. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next.
Yay.
Hello, I'm Gwyneth Nicholson, and I am a full-time school teacher. I teach humanities at a middle school here in Maine. And as you can imagine, this year has been really challenging in every single possible way. But it's also been really nice in some ways. I'm also training to be a coach, so I'm going through a coaching program, and that's thrilling and taking quite a bit of time, but it's good. I was just telling Hannah before the meeting started that I'm feeling that sense of flow where like when I'm done with a coaching session, I actually have more energy than when I started. So that's exciting. But in terms of a project that has been calling out to me, I started writing a novel with my students. We did NaNoWriMo during the month of November, just because it was a great project to do during the pandemic because, you know, they could just sort of get their idea going and run with it. And
What is NaNoWriMo?
it stands for National Novel Writing Month.
Wow.
And they have a student version that you can do with kids. And yeah, so we spent the whole month of November just writing these little novels. And
how awesome.
Yeah, and I did it along with the kids, and I ended up with this sweet little middle grade novel, you know, like a 5th or 6th grade book. And I just love it. Like I am surprised by how much I care about this girl who I wrote about. And she's just sort of sitting in limbo now. So I'd kind of like to finish that, or at least get it to a point where it feels complete. You know, even if I don't end up with a full novel, I want her story to be finished, even just for myself. So yeah.
Very cool. Wow, NaNoWriMo.
NaNoWriMo, yeah. Would you like to go next, Gabo?
Yeah, sure. I'm Gabo. I guess I was running a business until the pandemic happened, and now I've stopped that business, and I'm trying to focus on just like focusing all my attention on creative projects. Is my mic on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. So I don't know. I have 3 main creative projects I'm trying to work on. There's one that is a fantasy story. I don't know, based around the infinite dream, kind of spiritual or philosophical, but also just like kind of high fantasy at the same time. And then there's like a poem story that I'm working on, and there's writing that I've been doing just about like I don't know, like power structures that kind of shape society and culture and stuff like that. And so I don't know, just having a lot of trouble balancing multiple different projects and trying to like figure out what to prioritize and what's worth spending more time on and like how to, I don't know. I feel like they have very different like emotional and mental energies that they take, like states you have to be in, because like I don't know, political stuff can be very like sad, I guess, and then like emotional stuff it requires a certain amount of openness, and it's just like I don't know, trying to juggle different mind states and different projects and stuff like that has been a struggle. So yeah, I guess that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Beautiful. I think I'm last, so I'll go. I'm Hannah. I'm a coach, and I'm also a writer. I'm supposed to be writing a book right now, and I'm not. You would think that that might be what my project is going to be about, but it's not, because I'm not ready. Another role, sort of creative role I have in my life, is that I front a bar band, and I've been really wanting to get comfortable playing keyboards in front of people. I'm a very beginner keyboard player. I took some keyboard lessons with a teacher who was so amazing, but spent like 90% of our lessons telling war stories about being in amazing bands and doing cool stuff, which I loved. But and then the rest of the time he'd just be like, just do this, like, okay, well, I'm gonna go home and practice that, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, I've been sort of working on it on my own, using web learning and stuff like that. But I haven't really, I told myself at the beginning of the pandemic that I was going to be able to competently play like 5 to 7 songs while I sing and while I'm in front of an audience, and to be able to keep time with my band while I do it. which is a pretty tall order for someone who, I've been singing in front of audiences for several years now, but I haven't played an instrument in front of an audience except for some pretty subpar tambourine playing. So
singing is so much harder than playing the piano. I'm sorry, if you could already do that, you're going to be able to pick up the piano, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. Yeah. So, but then Ruben and I were having this kind of meta discussion about like, okay, so playing the piano is what I want, but what I also really want is to own my morning so that I have the mental clarity to do things like practice on the piano and really commit to it without letting my brain be hijacked by email and social media and whatever. So I've been talking about like having a miracle morning, it's called, which is a book that came out, which is kind of an idea about having habits in the morning that help you to sort of start the day in a way that lets you have some control over, or control isn't even the right word, just like agency in your day, instead of just getting carried away and hijacked by whatever ends up in your inbox or on your texts or in your social media, which happens to me too much. So I think as I'm designing my project, I really want to do it with a mind toward setting like a performance goal, like I can do these songs, and also more like a process goal about how I wake up and how I take care of my mental health and basically my body, my brain, and my creativity before I let the world hijack my attention. So that's where we all are. Before we jump into doing like a group thing, I was thinking it would be really cool if we could just decide a little bit as a group what norms we want the group to have, like how we want this group to be, or what we would like it to be. And I think, Ruben, did you bring your magical iPad?
I did. Yes.
I gave somebody screen sharing privileges. I wonder who I gave it to. Allow participants to share screen. Oh, this is the time that you can all Zoom bomb us if you want to. But Ruben,
it's a second monitor, so I will join it through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wonder if I can join the same Zoom meeting twice. I'm going to try.
Good question.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Pandemic
question.
Project PP.
M. It stands for Mastermind, and
Mastermind.
maybe, yeah. While Ruben's getting technology set up, maybe I can quickly explain what a mastermind is. Basically, the idea of a mastermind is a bunch of people who have like a similar interest or concern or whatever get together on a regular basis. They share a project that they're working on, and then each week we'll do a little bit of learning about like a way to get stuff done or organize or whatever. And we'll also have time every week for each of us to check in and talk about our project and what's going on. And we can bring questions to the table or ask for help or strategies or feedback. And then we can give that to each other. So for instance, if I'm having a terrible yak shaving issue, I could bring that to the table, and you all could give me some advice about either how to shave my yak more artfully or how to, let its freak flag fly and move on to other things that are maybe more vital. By the way, yak shaving, have you guys heard of that? It's yeah, go ahead, Mark. Do you want to explain?
Shall I tell the story? Yeah. I think I'll go straight for the explanation there instead of the circuitous. But yeah, yak shaving is like basically like not doing the important thing and doing everything else besides that first that maybe doesn't matter as much. And right. I do that all the time. So Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to link to a Seth Godin article after snack is over about yak shaving so you can read about it.
Nice.
It's a pretty entertaining, although there might be or you could post it too, Mark, because I think you know where the original cool story is. But
Right. Yeah. It's from a Ren and Stimpy episode.
Okay. Do you guys remember? I don't even know if you're all old enough to know who Ren and Stimpy are, but okay. Ruben, are you ready?
Maybe not. I don't know. It's a little different than
Oh.
Ruben, you've turned into two people.
Yeah, I have. I was trying to share my screen on my tablet, but I've done it many times before, but this time it is not wanting to work. So.
Oh, that's okay. I just realized that I can share my screen and I'm not going to do fancy art stuff like you do, but I can type while people talk.
Yeah.
And take some notes. Does that sound good? All right.
Yeah.
So I'll go into Drive.
What kind of tablet are you using, Ruben? Is it an iPad or?
Yes, it's an iPad, and I've shared my screen a ton of times, but this time it's not, for whatever reason, working. I guess sometimes.
You want to try a reboot, or I probably won't do anything, but yeah, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Technology, it always feels new to me every time.
Yeah, I know. It's really annoying. Oh, and I have a thing where it doesn't want to give me a new stock.
I think this is probably only like the third or fourth time I've ever been on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
I'm that isolated. My God, that's terrible.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Sure.
The third time I've been on Zoom today.
Okay, very good.
I think this is the 7th time I've been on Zoom today.
Wow.
That's
I think I will never catch up.
If you add Google Hangouts, then I've been on 7 or 8 times too.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about maybe building a Zoom, as a product, but of course, barely ever use it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you would have an outsider's view, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
That can be cool. Oh, finally I can have a doc. Okay. Sorry about the delay. Tab back over here. And I'm going to share my screen. And it's going to be that. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I see a document.
Yeah.
And then there's people on the side.
Isn't it cool?
Very exciting.
Pandemic project. Is anything happening?
Nothing yet. Oh, there we go. Pandemic Pro.
Yeah. More. There we go. Okay. So just whoever wants to go first, what would you like this group to be like? How would you like us to operate?
I don't know.
Yeah, one thing that I think is very important in any project is really being willing to share when things go wrong. Of course, at the same time, it's very hard to take criticism. So I think having a very good culture of good criticism culture, where it's affirmation based, where you say you don't give value to what someone shares. You don't say this was good or this was bad. You just express your perception of it. So I see this or I see this, instead of saying you should change this or you should change that.
I need a hyphen.
Can we make that a tiny bit bigger for us?
Yeah.
And do you always, I've noticed that you're using purple.
I know. I did that because I'm sad that I'm not getting to see Ruben's magical graphics.
Me too.
So I could at least make it purple.
Yeah, I'll figure it out for next week.
Yeah, no problem. I could even give it like a groovy, I could make it Comic Sans and embarrass myself in front of you all.
Century Gothic.
Ooh, yeah?
Ruben, I was thinking of like, even just for myself, like showing the iPad in front of the camera, that probably isn't good enough, really.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fine, but this works too. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not
Okay. Oh boy, project is really can't even be fixed by spell check. Okay, willing to share mistakes. Feedback is helpful and observation based, not judgment based.
Nice.
What else?
I would also like to normalize sharing small incremental progress, where you don't need to feel like you did. Like often I have this feeling where if a long time passes and I'm not sharing stuff, I feel like the next thing I have to share is something monumental, or else it speaks poorly of me. It would be good to have an environment where just where small steps are normal to share instead of
That would be really valuable for me too. That's great.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to say, like, I say to my coachees all the time, the week that you're having a really crappy time, that's the time to come get coached, because that's when we can really dig in and figure out like where the struggles are and what we can do about them. So, and that's true of the small victories too. It's the stuff that's actually happening in your life is the interesting stuff. I think that I would like, I'd like to have an environment in this group where no matter how prepared you are, no matter how ready you feel like it's okay to show up. And the reason I say that, is that I think the death spiral of group stuff can sometimes be like, especially for people who have procrastination issues or who have focus issues or have a lot of shame around not having executed in the past on terms that feel like you're supposed to, is that you miss a meeting because you feel bad because you didn't do the homework, and then you don't go to the next meeting, and then you don't go to the next meeting, and then all of a sudden you just like you failed the class or you've dropped out or whatever. And so I think it's really important that we acknowledge that just showing up and being curious is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
That's another. Be curious, be interested in what other people are working on. I mean, I'm pretty excited by what people are talking about doing in this group. I think there's some really, really exciting stuff going on. So being curious and open to what's happening, I think would be a really good norm. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to add? I have a question. So this is like the pregame show, right? Like we're showing up before next week when we start to formulate these plans and begin to execute them. How would we feel about new people joining at different points?
I think it probably, has to be pretty open. I think open would be better just to keep the momentum. Anyways, that's my thought.
I feel the same way. And I feel like I'm willing to make a commitment, and I know Ruben is too, to sort of keep an archive of what we do, so that when people want to join later, they can have tools and resources to help them do that. And also if you miss a week, that's totally cool, because you can look at the recording or whatever and go into the archives and see what we worked on. How about expectations around like outside of the group. Like, for instance, one of the things we can do is in the feed, you know, the way Mighty Networks, which is the hosting platform for this group, the way it works is that there's like a feed that you can post stuff in all the time, and then we can have these weekly Zoom meetings. I'm hoping to put some stuff on the feed just to help people like check in and know that we're thinking about each other and caring about each other. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Cool. Okay.
I mean, I don't think this really works as a norms, which is why I didn't share it yet, but I feel like I would like this to be a place that is rejuvenating as opposed to like, because as I said, I had, you know, class all day, which included teaching in person and teaching online, you know, and all that stuff. And then I had a meeting with the Maine Department of Education, and then I had a coaching client. And so like, I want to be here and have it be a joyful, like something to fill me up rather than to have it feel like something that's like another commitment, you know, not to say that I won't commit, but like, I want it to feel, playful. You know, I don't have enough creativity right now in my life, and I really miss it. So
yeah. Cool. Yeah. And one of the things Ruben and I have talked a lot about is like today we're going to do like a quick 10-minute brainstorming thing that'll be fun, and Ruben's going to be showing us I think actually, wow,
that'll definitely work.
That'll work. Cool. Okay, great. Yeah, so Ruben's going to be showing us a fun activity to do, and I think that play needs to be a huge part of this. I am not showing up to spend another hour of my life like feeling like I don't know, I'm doing something onerous. I don't actually have to do very much of that in my life right now anyway, I'm going to confess, but but I don't want any. So yeah, we'll play when we're together. And I mean, the other piece of that is in terms of like helping each other out with projects as we go. Like we may find that some people are interested in each other's stuff and want to help out with stuff outside of the group. And I think that's totally cool. I don't think it should be part of the norm of the group that you know, any of us would say like, okay, I wrote 30 pages in my journal this week and I would like to post them to the group and have everybody read them. Like, I think that might become cumbersome. And I also think that if people want to share stuff with each other as part of the group and it's mutually fun and cool and beneficial, we should do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, any other norms we should put up here? Oh, I forgot to write down. New people are welcome and we keep archives for them. Okay, cool. Ruben, do you want to switch to telling us about a fun thing to do?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
I'll put these up in Snack later.
yeah, so the thing I'm going to share is it has to do with what I said earlier, which is the way you direct your attention has such a big impact on the outcome of your goals. So the thing I'm going to share is my strategy for brainstorming, and specifically for brainstorming this project.
Can you tell us the name of your project?
Yes. So I will tell you it after the it's working, right?
Yeah, I see some iMovie. Is that you, Ruben?
Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I'll talk about my project a little after this, because this kind of gets into how to zero in on a project, how to recognize what, because all of us have projects that are kind of diverse, and we have an idea of what we want, but to actually get a project done, it has to be razor sharp, exactly what is the goal. So the way I approach it it for brainstorming is I start with a seed idea, and the seed in this case is, for this example, I use the idea that Hannah was talking about with Miracle Morning, where it is, as a seed, it is just the idea of having the morning being a positive routine, something that's in your control, something that you are starting the day off right and feeling productive. And brainstorming is just whatever first comes to mind. So the first thing that came to my mind was every morning I should write more theory, write about attention, write about getting things done, and having a routine that includes sharing the process either to my website or to whatever social media platforms I have. If I could do that every day, that would be an awesome start to my day. I would feel so accomplished. And then the next thing that came to mind was the idea of entropy. This is the phrase that I use for things that decay over time when neglected. So for example, it is stuff like keeping your body in shape, keeping your space in shape. That means being in control of the food you eat, being in control of exercise, of sleep hygiene, and keeping a clean space. And again, if I could be on top of this, where just the first 2 hours of every day in my morning was a really razor sharp routine that kept all these in check, it gave me so much energy for the rest of the day. These are all the actions that came to mind when I thought of Miracle Morning. But perhaps even more important is the idea of what is the why? What is the underlying reason to even wanting a miracle morning? So the first idea was being in control and having small victories, having something that I start the day off right, and I just feel like good things are happening. It's starting on the right page. Another important thing for me for my life is to feel healthy, feel happy, feel like I am, that I'm in a good physical and mental state. And if I was to continue the analogy of roots, it would be all of the actions are the branches. I guess the seed analogy. All of the actions are the branches, and all of the underlying reasons are the roots. And if I find patterns among the roots, I can see which actions make the most sense to fulfill my goals. So in this case, most of my roots focus around well-being, focus around mental health, around physical health. And on my actions, it just so happens that there's a bunch that align. And that is kind of your mind will naturally do that. It will, if you give it license to just experiment and say no bad ideas, they will connect. So in this case, the stuff like writing theory and sharing my process is really cool, but it doesn't serve my goals. If I focus on entropy management, that will fulfill the more basic needs that I have. More basic needs, not in the sense of like Maslow's pyramid, which is coincidentally it does, but basic needs in the sense that when I think of what is good for me, what are my goals, it matches that. And so the next stage is just setting another seed. So entropy, I take one branch from the old seed, and that becomes a new baseline. And then for each of these, I can expand on these. So for example, for food, what does it mean to be in control of my food? It means maybe having healthy breakfast every day, maybe doing meal prep so that if I can do all of my food prep in the beginning, it'll give me so much more energy and time in the rest of the day. For sleep, there's not much I can do in the morning for sleep, but something like making sure I don't have my phone when I wake up would be really good, just practicing good sleep hygiene. For movement, I just think of things that I'm already familiar with doing. I don't want to set crazy goals that I have no idea how to do. And for cleaning, I'm not writing down a list of fantasies. I'm just writing down things that I'm already good at. And that's the starting point for really getting my whole day under control. And here on the side, I have Miracle Morning, which was the base seed, and Ritual Routine, which is, I haven't really talked about this, but it is the whole process itself. There's, I guess you could categorize goals into a whole bunch of classes where having a really solid ritual is one class of goal. Another one is having kind of like a point that you are chasing. But starting with a seed and working outwards works for both. I guess I'm going to stop my screen share, but I am going to share the. Did I stop my screen share? I can't tell.
Yes.
Yep, you stopped.
I'm also going to share the thing that I did for my project, which is the same exact thing. This is the first phase that I did for mine. Fall Creek is the game that I'm designing, and I hope it's not mirrored. Is it mirrored?
That looks good.
No, it looks
I
good.
can see it.
Yeah, where it is the same. The upper half is a list of all of the actions that need to be done. Just as a first pass, I don't know if I'll actually get to do these, but it's just recording what comes to mind when I think of actions. And on the bottom is the telos, or the root of motivation for what do I want to manifest with my project. And that's just the first stage. I'm going to keep iterating it, and the homework actually will be to do a similar process. Just get a piece of paper and kind of spew out whatever ideas come to mind that are associated with the idea of a 10-week project. And then by looking at them and being aware of them, it will lead to insights on how exactly to carry out the project itself.
Cool, thank you. Any thoughts or questions or whatever for Ruben about his process?
It's neat to see somebody else's process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it because it is it's extremely low cognitive burden, because there's no wrong answers. It is just listening to your mind, and if there's at any point I don't know what the next step is, I can say, okay, I'll just start sketching out ideas. I'll start brainstorming, and it always leads, and it leads signs to go in leads for what direction I can possibly take.
Do you archive the results of your paper process, for example?
Archive, and I was going to post it to the Seabright group, but yeah.
That would archive it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, if that was the question, yes, I am. I also do a lot of it is.
It was actually more a question of about your process or your meta process, I suppose.
Yes. So what I do is I do a version on paper, and then I use that as the reference for a digital version, and then back and forth.
Okay.
So I'll share that too. But I have, for example, what I just showed was on Procreate on the iPad, and that one was obviously paper. And yeah, I start with one, and then once the page is filled up, then I go to the next one and do that, and back and forth. Because Procreate is easier, but you can't really do two screens. If I had two tablets, I would probably do that. But yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I really like that concept of roots and with the seed, which is the seed of the idea, and then roots being the motivation and branches being, the brainstorm of the
actions that can
actions,
be
the form, the content or whatever. So I guess my next question is like, how far along are other people in the process of designing their project? Is anybody coming in with like a fully formed, I know exactly what I want to do and what it's going to look like and what my 10 weeks are going to be like, or Mark, do you want to start?
I'll jump in. I didn't realize there was a 10-week thing, but okay. So my project is called Gembox. That's kind of the code name for it. And I'm 9 months in, and as I've told Hannah many times, I've had lots of ideas in my life, and I've shipped a few out to the public with some level of success. I've also dropped the ball many times, and this one I'm definitely going to ship. I'm pretty, yeah, I'm pretty terrified that I might drop the ball again, just because that happens so often. But it's been a very intense 9 months. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the 10 weeks is totally arbitrary. We made that because we were just like blue skying, like, how long do we think it's going to be before lockdown is over? You know, the truth of the matter is, I don't know how substantively my work life is going to change after lockdown is over. I meet people on Zoom all day, probably going to keep doing that. But it did motivate me to think to myself, like, oh crap, I could be having gigs again pretty soon. And
I think there's an important insight there, which is that, you know, in terms of resonating with the frequencies of the world, I suppose there's a wave coming of, you know, activity, joy, you know, coming back out, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And so that can, you know, help propel a project or an initiative. So there's some energy in the world. You might be able to catch that wave.
right. And that whole seed concept that Ruben was talking about, like, that's really it, right? Like taking it from a seed to a whatever flower over the next 10 weeks could be really great too. What about other people? Do you feel like having a like going through this process of brainstorming branches and roots, like could that help you to refine your project, or is it already established, or like, what do you think?
Well, I've already spoken, but I just wanted to bring up that I am also about a year into my project.
Okay.
And yes, the 10 weeks is kind of arbitrary, but I really wanted to set that deadline for sharing an interactable thing with the public, because right now it's just been me and my ideas. So trying to figure out if, is that even a reasonable deadline? I really hope so, but I think with some scrutiny, I'll figure out a path to plotting out those 10 weeks, like, okay, week 1, week 2, week 3, how exactly am I going to get from here to my goal?
You two are on very similar trajectories, I would say, in terms of like shipping.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to offer this since the beginning of our meeting here. Do you guys know Mark Cuban? Anyways, he's an investor guy, but he was saying like the best job interview question right now should be, you know, what did you do with the pandemic time? You know, this was such an exceptional time. We were all kind of introverted and, you know, forced to be. So, you know, what was your pandemic project? So this seems so along those lines. I thought that was an interesting insight.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting.
For
So,
the little,
yeah, go.
yeah, for the little book that I'm working on that I decided to have be my project, I'm about a quarter to a fifth of the way through, like a standard length book. So I kind of just want to keep going, you know, but I think what came to mind when you were doing it was looking at the roots, you know, thinking about, you know, I don't want to do this because I have delusions of grandeur, you know, and I want to go, you know, be published and become a millionaire author or something, you know, but what are my goals? And I mean, part of it is just, like I said, I'm lacking creative spark in my life. You know, I usually do a lot of theater and I haven't been able to do any with the pandemic.
Right.
I'm really missing that. And I need another outlet, you know? So getting down to like, what do I really want? Why do I really want to do this? I think is so important for me. Not just because, oh yeah, this is a thing I'm doing, but really looking at what do I hope to feel? What do I hope to experience? And where do I want to grow? So yeah, that was really helpful to me.
Other thoughts or things that people want to chip in?
Yeah, I was thinking it would probably be very helpful because, I don't know, the projects that I'm working on, a lot of them are kind of nebulous, especially the fantasy story. Like there is a lot that is planned out, but sometimes it gets hard to figure out exactly what are the like story assets that have to be written in order to like do certain parts of world building and stuff like that. So I feel like that will probably help a lot. Just sort of like an automatic way to filter through what needs to be done and what needs to be made and stuff like that. So I'll try that for I guess all 3 projects because I'm not really sure which one I want to focus on, which is I guess one of my issues.
I just sorry to jump in, Gabo, but that's such a great point. Like this is a really great way to road test several projects and find out which one is really the right one. And I kind of feel in the same situation in the sense that I have I've sort of taken on a lot of initiatives, and when I thought about what project I could do, you know, with you all in community, my brain sort of just went like and I feel pretty clear that I've decided on the performance goal of being able to play those songs. But in terms of like the process goal or whatever, I mean, I thought it was really interesting when Ruben was writing down the branches and he had 2 really different things. And one of them was sort of like intellectual and sharing and technology. And the other one was like really fundamental, like what do I need to do to take care of like the base of the pyramid of my needs. And that was the direction in his model that he decided to go with, right? In that example. And I think one of the questions I have is, what happens when I try to have like a performance goal that's external and marry it to a process goal that's about, I mean, basically, if I was thinking about like my statement of purpose for this project, I would think of it as wanting to grow in discipline as a musician. Because right now, the way I'm a musician is I, you know, pull stuff together for a gig. I run herd on the other members of my band and we practice a few times and then I get up and do it. You know, I'm not practicing scales. I'm not working on my posture or my breathing or my technique. I just show up and do it, and I don't want it to just be that way anymore. I want the process and the growth to be deliberate, and I want to keep track and I want to hold myself accountable. So I feel like in my case, when I take those roots and branches, you could almost flip the tree upside down for me and it would still work the same way, you know, because I'm like growing a human being and I'm also like growing a repertoire of songs that I can play. Or you can flip it and say like, I'm growing a bunch of songs I can play, but the roots of it are that I'm growing a human being. So I find that to be the hallmark of like a sign that I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm. So we had actually been thinking that during this hour, we might spend some time like playing Lounge Lizard music and making these making these seed drawings together and then sharing them. But clearly we're not going to have time for that. But how cool would it be if some of us did this exercise or some other exercise that works for you that might be a little modification or like a totally different thing, and just stick them up on Snack this week for each other to look at and celebrate.
Yeah, I'll definitely be posting mine. I so highly recommend it. It is, having something on paper to look at is so different than having it in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that would be a huge transition for me, because it's always so much in my head. There's so little that is really encoded. It limits how much I can do, actually, I think. But it would be a really big change for me to have that kind of planning.
Mark, can you tell them about your notebook and what a transformation it was? For
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. Yeah. So I have a notebook, and I've got, like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 of these, and I label each day as in today. I don't know if you
Every
can see.
day he writes today at the top.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
notebook.
So there was this famous conductor who lost his short-term memory, and I remember seeing this film in psychology class in college. Anyways, he couldn't remember anything, but he kept a notebook. And every moment he said, "Oh my God, it's my first moment. I'm breathing fresh air for the first time. I'm tasting coffee for the first time." It was utter, absolute joy. And then he would cross it out and say, "I don't know who that guy was, but I'm awake for the first time. I'm tasting coffee for the first time. The sun is shining on me for the first time." So anyways, it was like every day was today. So there's my notebook, and it really has helped me. I don't look back that often. It keeps me kind of centered in the project. It's like it's very, very hard to come away from the project and then come back. I think of it as like spinning plates now. And I used to say when I was a kid that it would take like 2 12-hour days to get warmed up. And then, on that third 12-hour day, I was making progress. And so, like, even a slight moment to go have a meal or exercise and take care of the body breaks it off. And so it's hard. So anyways, long story short, the notebook helps to keep that context for me. It's a small victory.
One of my mantras is that, and I didn't make it up, but one of my mantras is that brains are for having ideas, not for storing them.
Say that again?
Brains are for having ideas, not for storing them. So, to the extent that we can use something like, my intention is I've got a big old notebook that's about this big, and I've got a soft rug, and I've got magic markers, and I got my belly. I want to lie on my belly and do that process with magic markers, and I'll share with you what I come up with, because I definitely know that I have some refining to do before I really feel like I'm at the heart of what I want the project to be. And then I think next week we're going to talk a little bit about like the power of breaking a big project up into chunks and deciding what those chunks are going to look like over the 10 weeks. Once we have a clear intention of what we're going for. And for some, I think even if the project was going to be, showing up every day and making rice, I think we could figure out a way to take that 10-week goal and make it rich and break it down. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Oh, absolutely.
we'll see. Sorry?
No, absolutely. Even very, very tiny things. Everything can be improved. Even the most, what sounds like a very, very simple project. If you really zoom in on every part of the task,
Yeah.
It's worth the attention and worth the effort
Yeah.
to break things down and really scrutinize them.
It has a lot of meaning. And so endeth the first session of Snack.
Yay.
Mastermind. Thank you all for coming.